I had just turned 22. Technically, I was a grown man. But when I walked into that old townhouse on Rosewood Avenue, I didn't feel like one. Not yet. Not in front of her. Ms. Carter. She opened the door herself, barefoot, holding a glass of wine in one hand and a subtle smirk in the other. Her red silk robe clung to her like something alive, hugging every curve I had fantasized about when I was still just her student. 4 years had passed, and yet she hadn't changed except maybe for the confidence. The kind of confidence a woman earns when she knows exactly how dangerous she is. "You're early," she said, stepping aside to let me in. "That's either ambitious or desperate." I swallowed hard. "Maybe both." She raised an eyebrow, then turned on her heel and walked deeper into the dimly lit living room, her hips swaying like a slow metronome to a song only she could hear. I followed like a moth chasing heat. The air smelled like sandalwood and secrets. She didn't offer me a seat. Instead, she stood near the fireplace, sipping her wine, watching me with the calm amusement of a cat watching a mouse walk voluntarily into its trap. "You wanted to see me?" I asked, trying not to sound breathless. "I did," she said. "But only because you asked to be seen." That was true. After years of daydreams, I'd messaged her clumsily under the pretense of catching up. I didn't think she'd respond. I didn't think she'd invite me to her house. And I definitely didn't think she'd look at me the way she was now, like I was dessert she hadn't decided whether to eat slowly or all at once. She tilted her head. "Still chasing fantasies, Nathan?" I blinked. Was I that obvious? "You were 17 and tried to write me poetry," she said with a laugh that was half sin and half sigh. "You were adorable." "I'm not 17 anymore." "No," she said. "Now you're a man who still doesn't know what he wants." I stepped closer. "I know what I want." "Oh," she asked, her voice dropping like velvet. "And what's that?" "You." The moment cracked like lightning between us. She didn't move. She just sipped her wine again and said, "We're not alone tonight." That's when I noticed the other woman seated on the leather couch behind me. She had been there the whole time, like a shadow blending into the room. Long black hair. Pale skin. High heels and a choker. She crossed her legs slowly, like she knew I had just realized she was part of the lesson. "This is Lila," Ms. Carter said. "She's advanced coursework." Lila smiled. "Hi, Nathan. We've heard a lot about you." My throat tightened. I glanced at Ms. Carter, then back at Lila. There was something electric between them. An energy I didn't understand yet, but wanted to be consumed by. "Still sure you know what you want?" Ms. Carter asked, walking behind me. Her fingers touched the back of my neck light but firm. "Because we're not here to play teacher and student. That game's over." Lila stood, walking toward us in slow, measured steps. She stopped inches from me, her perfume dizzying vanilla and danger. "We're here," she whispered, "to see what happens when you let go of control." Lila's hand traced the edge of my shirt, not undressing me, just reading me. Ms. Carter circled me like a predator with patience. "You've been in control your whole life," she said behind me. "Trying to prove yourself. Be the smart one. The strong one. The man." Lila's voice slid in beside hers. But what if being a man meant surrender? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My body was already betraying every attempt at composure. The heat between them, their eyes, their energy, it was overwhelming. Ms. Carter whispered, "Kneel." I hesitated. She leaned in, her breath against my ear. "You said you wanted me. Then prove it." I dropped to my knees on the rug, heart hammering. Lila smiled. "Good boy." Ms. Carter walked in front of me, crouched down so we were face to face. "This isn't about sex," she said, her tone softer now. "This is about trust. Power. The space between want and need." My breath came shallow. "We'll touch you when we feel you're ready," she continued. And not a moment before. Lila stepped behind me, running her fingers through my hair. "Can you wait, Nathan?" I nodded. Ms. Carter took my chin in her fingers. "Use your words." "Yes." She smiled, satisfied. "Then let's begin." The next hour blurred into something like hypnosis. I didn't know time. I didn't know shame. I only knew the feeling of being unraveled. They didn't rush. They didn't strip me. They asked questions. Personal ones. Deep ones. They took turns circling me, sometimes sitting on either side, sometimes watching me from across the room while I waited, silent, instructed not to move. They read me like a book and made me listen to myself between every page. At some point, Lila leaned in close and said, "You think dominance is about pain or leather or toys. It's not. It's about knowing someone so well that they'll let you into the parts of themselves they don't show anyone." Ms. Carter added, "It's about earned obedience. Not demanded." My chest ached not from pain, but from something deeper. The need to be known. To be seen. To be taken completely. Later, Ms. Carter stood before me and finally undid the knot of her silk robe. It slid from her shoulders like a sigh. Beneath, she wore black lace, elegant, commanding. Lila joined her, removing her heels, stepping beside her like a mirror, different yet aligned. Their chemistry was terrifying. Beautiful. A gravity I couldn't resist. "You've done well," Ms. Carter said. Lila took my hand. "Now we show you what it means to be chosen." They didn't rush. Every movement was deliberate, every glance a test I didn't know I was taking. Ms. Carter placed her hands on my shoulders, steadying me, her fingers warm and authoritative. "You're here because you asked for something different," she said. "Not porn. Not fantasy. But intensity." Lila moved behind me, her breath teasing the back of my neck. "So we're going to give it to you. On our terms." I didn't speak. I couldn't. The air between them pulsed like something alive. Ms. Carter stepped back and sat on the edge of a low velvet bench, crossing her legs. "Crawl," she commanded softly. "Come here." My pride cracked and I let it. I moved to her on my hands and knees, every inch of the floor pulling at my shame and reshaping it into hunger. She tilted my chin up. Good. You follow instruction. But will you follow feeling? I hesitated. Lila's voice chimed in like silk through smoke. It's not about obeying. It's about surrendering. That word, surrender. It hit something inside me I hadn't realized was aching to collapse. Ms. Carter leaned forward, lips just beside my ear. We're going to show you pleasure by removing your ability to chase it. My hands shook. Lila brought out a blindfold, not rough, not cliché. Smooth, soft, intentional. She didn't ask permission. She waited. Eyes on mine. I nodded once. The moment it covered my eyes, the world became pure sensation. I could hear their footsteps. Feel the change in the air when one of them got close. Smell their perfume. Anticipation became the edge I was kept on, and they danced me there like professionals. Ms. Carter's voice guided everything. Still want control? No, I whispered. Still want us? Yes. And if we say stop? I stop. She paused. Then, with something that felt like approval, said, then you're ready. The rest of the night was less like sex and more like initiation. They made me describe what I was feeling. What I was craving. They touched me barely, cruelly, perfectly. Fingertips on my jaw. Nails down my spine. A kiss on the inside of my wrist, where no one had ever kissed me before. Lila whispered fantasies in one ear while Ms. Carter asked sharp questions in the other. What do you think dominance means? Who taught you what a man is? What are you hiding when you act confident? I answered everything, and by the end, I didn't recognize the sound of my own voice. But it wasn't shame I felt. It was freedom. When they finally let me see again, the room was warmer. Lit by candles. Music low, ambient, like something from a dream. Ms. Carter sat beside Lila now. Their bodies relaxed, legs stretched, robes loose. And they were smiling. Like artists pleased with their work. You passed, Lila said. For tonight, Ms. Carter added. I tried to speak, but the only thing that came out was, what happens now? They looked at each other, and then Ms. Carter said. Now. Now we teach you how to give. Lila's smile deepened. And how to ask for what you really want. The hours blurred. I don't remember when I stopped thinking and started feeling everything, not just in my body, but in the places men are taught to keep armored. Ms. Carter and Lila dismantled me piece by piece, not with cruelty, but with clarity. They didn't want my performance. They wanted my truth. There was a moment, maybe 2 hours in, when Lila sat across from me, her legs pulled up under her robe, face bare of makeup, eyes glowing in the low candle light. You still think this is about sex? She asked. I shook my head. She smiled. Good. Then she walked to me, straddled my lap, her breath warm against my neck, but didn't kiss me. You want me to take you, she whispered, but do you even know why? Her hips barely moved, just enough to stir electricity. I trembled beneath her, but didn't reach out. That was one of the rules. I had to wait. To feel needed. I said, voice rough. She nodded. And beneath that, to be seen. Go deeper. I stared at her. To not be alone. Her expression softened, not pity, not power. Just understanding. She kissed my forehead. That's the real hunger. Ms. Carter approached then, barefoot, her hair down, robe undone but clinging. You've gone farther than most men would dare, she said. Now it's time to feel what that earns. And then finally they let the tension dissolve. What followed wasn't pornographic. It was poetic. Touch, yes. Pleasure, yes. But more than that, connection. They kissed me like I was valuable. Held me like I had weight. And when I finally touched them, it wasn't about possession. It was about permission. I wasn't devouring. I was honoring. And they received it. All of it. All of me. After, I lay between them, heart open, body spent. Lila traced circles on my chest while Ms. Carter stared at the ceiling, breathing slowly. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, I said, was that real? Ms. Carter laughed, low and lovely. You think you hallucinated that? I don't know. It didn't feel like something that should happen in real life. Lila smiled. Most people are too afraid of themselves to ever get here. Ms. Carter turned to me, brushing hair from my face. But you weren't. I was terrified. And you came anyway, she whispered. That's what made it beautiful. When I left that night, the sky was just beginning to lighten. The first hints of dawn painting the world silver. My shirt was half buttoned, and my mind, quiet for the first time in years. I looked back at the house, that old townhouse on Rosewood Avenue, and smiled. She had been my teacher once. But now I'd been taught something much more powerful. How to give. How to want. And how to let go.